Hey guys, sorry I didn't manage to find time to record a video last week. Last week kind of kicked my ass from a bunch of different angles, so things kind of got away from me. But while I do have time this week to sit down for a little bit and record a little something, I wanted to answer a viewer question. Somebody was asking about my writing process when it comes to Yellow Peril and my webcomic. And so I wanted to give you some insight into how I get the things from here onto there. Now, I'm not entirely certain this is going to be helpful for anybody. I don't really consider myself a writer. I don't know what I consider myself. I guess cartoonist. I guess writing comes along with cartooning. But I'm much better at drawing things than I am writing things. Maybe, I mean, if some of these ideas or of some of my process is helpful for you, that's great. If you don't think it's good for you at all, then it's great that you've learned what you don't want to do as a writer. I'll just hop into it. The writing process for me tends to be pretty cerebral. I don't make a lot of notes. I don't have huge notebooks full of things. When I script things out, I don't write down a formalized script. Like I've seen scripts from like Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore, and they get into the nitty gritty details of things. I know some other comic book writers actually thumbnail pages and layouts for their artists to give them an idea what they were trying to do. But since I'm writing for myself, I kind of I keep things up here. I don't really need to take notes because I figure if I forget an idea that I had, it's probably not a good idea. Sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes I forget something really good. But usually I try to start with a general theme. Now, Yellow Peril updates 2 times a week, and I try to keep those updates structurally within like an arc. An arc can go on for 3 weeks to an entire month. I had an arc that was like 2 weeks. So there's no set length on how long I set an arc. But for every arc that I decide to break the story into, I try to choose a theme, like an overarching theme to the arc, or like a big idea that I want to communicate through happenstance or the goings on throughout the arc. And then I will start tossing out ideas and I will start throwing them away. Like the first idea, I always chuck out. Sometimes I circle back around and I come back to that first idea and it happens to be the best one for that particular arc. But normally, the first thing I come up with is usually the worst thing I come up with. Because it's influenced from other things that I've seen or other things that I've read or other things that's happening. Although sometimes the first idea is really good and I just go with it. Sometimes arcs write themselves. Sometimes arcs take a little bit more time and there's a little bit more fighting in my head. My comic tends to be character driven instead of plot driven. So it's not necessarily too important to figure out like this happens and then this happens and then this happens and then this happens. I kind of think of it more like, here's a situation. How will these characters react to this situation? How will they deal with each other and with what's going on? So that's where I kind of focus all of my energies. And when I've come up with a good theme for the arc, I try to come up with basic notes that I want to hit. Like, here's where I want to start. Here's the high points. Here's a low point. Here's maybe an end point, and maybe some other stuff after the end. I never end an arc. I always end it, and then I add a couple more strips because I'm terrible with endings. So once I kind of have it laid out in my head, then I actually start writing and writing, and that process is basically thumbnailing. So I have a little notebook here. It's a college bound thing, and it's all thumbnails. So when I've gotten to this point, I just go ahead and thumbnail stuff. And you see there's not a lot of revisions, there's not a lot of rewrites. Sometimes there's blank spaces here where I'll just figure out what I want to draw when I get to the actual paper. But yeah, so when it gets to this point, I've pretty much figured out what I want to do with that arc. And now it's just thumbnailing things. Every comic gets drawn like 4 or 5 times, like once here, once in pencil, once in pen, and then the coloring happens, and sometimes I make corrections in the coloring. But the reason I like to keep my thumbnails nice and tight and really small is that it doesn't give me too much room to write dialogue. So I have to cut. I have to keep editing. I have to keep editing. I have to keep editing. And I guess that would be one of, if I had to give advice to cartoonists out there writing their own stuff, or writers out there, show, don't tell, So if you can cut dialogue, if you can show something rather than tell the audience something, that's much stronger in terms of storytelling. Now, it's a little bit difficult with my strip because it's an office comedy thing, and a lot of the humor comes from the minutia of the day-to-day and dealing with clients and dealing with their bullshit and contracts and all that kind of stuff. And so sometimes there will be nothing but talking heads, and I try to break that up with different angles or sneaking in common writer fan art here and there. But for the most part, I try to edit as much stuff out, which is tough for me because when I speak, if I can use 10 words to explain something where like 2 will do, I will usually do that. Like I tell stories, I ramble, I'm not a good joke teller. I just kind of go on. So this drawing at this small tiny size helps me edit myself and to fix my sentence structure so it's more active voice and not as descriptive as I want to be, because it's a comic. I can show what I'm talking about instead of having to drone on for words and words. Words are boring sometimes when you're reading walls of text. Like if you're reading a comic book and you're confronted with a wall of text, it's like, oh Jesus, why am I reading this comic? Why aren't they showing me what's going on? So there you go. That's the quick and short of the writing process. It's a lot of cutting stuff out, a lot of editing stuff out. As for where the ideas come from, I try to keep myself open to pretty much everything. Like, I don't feel like I read as much as I should. I should be reading more, and I should be reading more than just comics. I read a lot of comics, but I don't think that counts. I should be reading novels and things like that. It's difficult for me to find time to even read the comics that I want to read. So I think, but I draw inspiration from pretty much everything. Like, sometimes ideas will come to me in the shower. Sometimes ideas will come to me while I'm eating a burger, or sometimes ideas will come to me while I'm on the metro riding back and forth. So that's how I do it. So far it's worked out okay for me. There's definitely areas that I can improve in my writing. So yeah, I would be interested to hear what you guys do for your writing process. If it's more formalized, if you type out your scripts and things like that. So yeah, if you have if you would like to share your writing process with me, please let me know how you guys write your comics in the comments below, wherever you find this video. And thanks again for watching, and I'll check you later. Bye.